So every year, Stanley Cup playoffs roll around. I put the small Stanley Cup up on the shelf behind me here at the start of the playoffs, and then we get to the Stanley Cup final. The big Stanley Cup goes there. I've always meant to bring this to a meetup. I haven't as of yet. Maybe I need to for the next one. And then the winners of the last game would get to carry it around. And the Stanley Cup is this legendary trophy that tonight was awarded. And coming into this game tonight, I really didn't think Edmonton had much of a chance. I could not see Florida giving away an opportunity to win at home and win in front of the crowd. I don't think they wanted a game 7, so we don't get a game 7. For Florida now, the word dynasty is going to get thrown around. Legitimately, to become a dynasty, you win 3 championships in 4 years. Yes, they've been in the final 3 straight years. They've won 2 straight Stanley Cups. But to actually qualify as a dynasty, it is 3 championships in 4 years. Could they do it? Yes. And this is where it gets tricky because everybody always talks about, the tax breaks and all that. But Florida has now got a winning record and a Stanley Cup championship pedigree. And very often that means players will sign for less money to play in an environment where they feel like they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. So we'll see how things turn out this summer. Obviously, now we move into off-season mode. So starting tomorrow, I would imagine we'll have more NHL news and a lot more to talk about as we get ready for the draft. We might get some trades and whatnot. Sometimes those, I think, are held up by the Stanley Cup final. But tonight it was Skinner at one end and Bobrovsky at the other. And I have to say, Bobrovsky would have been probably my pick for the Conn Smythe tonight, although you could have handed it to any number of players. Klingberg, Kapanen were in the lineup for the Oilers. Stetcher and Arvidsson come out. Luongo beating the drum at the start of the game there for Florida. I am so happy for Roberto Luongo that after all those years in Vancouver of people saying he was an overpaid goaltender and he was useless and what are we paying this guy for, that now, and I know it's not as the goaltender for the Panthers, but just being in that environment and having a chance to win multiple Stanley Cups, he still gets a ring. I am very happy for Roberto Luongo. Panthers forecheck shows up early, relentless tonight in this one. The Oilers throwing some hits. Kane has a chance that's held. Kachuk fires one high on a rush. The Oilers press at 2.5 minutes. Klingberg has a shot that deflects wide. Jeff Skinner then has a wrister that's held. We get some pushing. Shots are 4-0 for the Oilers at 3.5 minutes. The Oilers did come out and play pretty well out of the gates. Then there's a kick save on Schmidt. The rebound's cleared. And then at 4:36 on a net drive as Reinhart falls, and this is on a turnover, and those turnovers really cost the Oilers tonight, but Reinhart with a nice goal. And so he scores there as he's fallen down. And the Florida Panthers 9-1 in their last 10 games when they score first. So if they score first, very difficult to come back. That one was put on them by the Oilers, of course, but still. Lindell's denied on a face-off win. The Panthers press. They have some momentum. They have the lead. The crowd's behind them. Verhaeghe fires one wide on a net drive. McDavid has a rush that's defended. The shots are 6-5 for the Oilers at 8 minutes. The Oilers led in shots in most of this game. I don't think that really tells the story, though. I will say Bobrovsky had a very good game, but it did feel like Florida was in control for a majority of this. Panthers forecheck leads to some pressure. The refs are letting things go, and that would be the case, and we'll get to what this magnet means when I get down there. I'm working on some magnets for next season, so this is the debut of a new magnet for next year. So there you go, a preview for you. So there's some Bobby chants going on, and we heard a lot of that tonight. And then he denies Kulak. The fans call when the referee does not. So Bouchard gets denied. There's some denial, and then the referee doesn't call what the fans wanted. I don't remember ref, you suck being said tonight. I didn't put it on the board, I don't think. So if I didn't put it on the board, it didn't happen. Ekholm has a chance on a face-off that's saved, and Bobrovsky really dialed in. And not only that, but Florida not allowing a lot of traffic in front of the net for the Oilers. So Dallas, I hope you watched how this worked, because this is part of what makes it more frustrating. As a fan of the Stars, this is just one of those things. Although, let's just be honest, Florida, very dominant. I talked about it earlier in the playoffs, how good Florida has been throughout these playoffs, how impressive a run this has been for them. Bennett's denied on a net drive. Perry has a rush chance. That's saved. A net feed to Lundell gets blocked. Greer has a net drive that's saved. The momentum swinging back. Panthers press with a minute and a half left, and at 19-13, after a turnover by the Oilers, it's a rush, and Florida scores. Tkachuk, it's a point shot off of Skinner's glove and in. Luostarinen and Lundell with the assist. So it's that last-minute goal, which are just, those are killers, right? And what did I talk about this morning? The Oilers needed to get off to a good start. They needed to play with the lead. They never got near a lead. The Florida Panthers led for, I think there was like 200 minutes in the series coming into tonight's game. The Oilers had a lead for like 30 minutes of the series. It's just the math doesn't math for you, right? So 6 in a row where the Oilers allowed 2 or more goals in the first period in 6 games. So it's just you're putting yourself behind, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and you're doing it against a Florida team that scores a lot of goals. They've put up, I know at one point they said it was the most goals scored by any team since 1993 in the playoffs, and that was a very wide open playoffs in 93. Second period with the score 2-0. Fans call one, the referee doesn't, as the game awaits its first power play. It would continue to wait. The Oilers press at 2 minutes. McDavid to Perry gets blocked. Desperate hockey by the Oilers. They did have that going for them, but every time they had that, Florida's making sure there's not traffic in front of the net. And Bobrovsky completely dialed in as a championship goaltender tends to be. Luostarinen has a rush that's blocked out. The Panthers press at 3 minutes. Henrique has a rush chance that's held. Schmidt's denied as the Oilers get pinned down a little bit. Forsling then has a one-timer that's caught and held. Luostarinen couldn't bury one in close. The shots are 6-5 Oilers at 9 minutes. Doesn't tell the story though, does it? Really, really doesn't. Barkov to Verhaeghe gets blocked. The Panthers forecheck, creating turnovers again. Then there's a delay on the ice, on an icing by the Panthers. I really think that delay of game has to start coming in next season. The amount of time that teams are, wait, was I on the ice? Was he on the ice? Who was on the ice? Man. So then the officials have to go and check, we'll put this guy in and that guy has to come out. And so the players on the ice get a break. And every team does it. I think the NHL needs to start, just some penalties in October of next season should clear that up nicely. So Wallman has a turnover chance that's blocked with 4 minutes left. Draisaitl had no shot attempts to that point in the game. None. Not just no shots, no shot attempts. That is how well blanketed, once again, Draisaitl and McDavid were being in this game. Near miss for Barkov on a net drive. The Panthers would press some more, and at 17:31, Reinhart with one that deflects in for an insurance goal. Yes, this one was misplayed by Skinner. The assist to Barkov and Verhaeghe, it's 3-0 in favor of the Florida Panthers. This is where when people want to dump on Skinner, I answer with, and the Oilers had how many goals? See, championship teams will bail out their goaltender when he has a bad game. So when Bobrovsky's had bad games here and there, Florida limits chances. Florida gets the goals to bail him out. And it's a storyline that I've been talking about for well over 15 years, that good teams bail out their goaltender when he has a rough game. So Janmark has a net drive that's blocked. The Oilers press in the final minute. They're kept to the outside with 15.7 seconds left. The Oilers then end up icing the puck. So it's 3-0 Florida after 2, and you could feel there wasn't a lot of comeback here. And the body language of the Oilers in that third period, defeated. Absolutely defeated coming out for the third period. Ekholm has a one-timer that's blocked and cleared. There's a toe save on a Wallman slapper as the Oilers press. 2.5 minutes in, the shots are 2-0 for the Oilers. Oilers press at 3.5 minutes. McDavid has a shot that's blocked out. Nugent Hopkinson has a rush chance that's saved. As the clock passes 5 minutes, we are getting closer and closer to the inevitable, right? Marchand has a near miss on a rush. Bouchard has a slapper that's blocked and cleared. The shots are 4-0 Edmonton at 8.5 minutes. McDavid has a rush that's defended. At this point, McDavid's trying to go through everybody. It's something to keep an eye on in games is if a star player is trying to just, I'll do it. I'll go through on my own. It never ends well. I remember back when Eichel was in Buffalo, I would talk a lot about Eichel doing that you could tell the players getting frustrated and they would try to go through everybody, and it doesn't work. And against a Florida team, good luck. Verhaeghe has a breakaway chance that's held. Bennett's denied on a turnover chance. And then they pull the goalie with 7 minutes left. And so at 13:26, Reinhart gets the hat-trick goal, his first career hat-trick in the playoffs. Barkov and Verhaeghe with the assists. So you would think that's the game, right? It's now 4-0, and then they go to commercial, and that stupid Boston Pizza commercial comes on. Can we Can we just not have these commercials next year about, oh, Canada winning a Stanley Cup? There's a lot of Canadian players on the Florida Panthers. In terms of how many days the Stanley Cup actually spends in Canada over the summer, it's okay. A lot of Canadian players bring the puck or bring the cup up to Canada to celebrate with their home community during the summer. So I think sometimes it gets a little bit overblown. But anyways, so the Cubs getting shined up when they came back, which I thought that was interesting. You have the Boston Pizza commercial of, hey, Edmonton, bring it home, and the, honeymoon suite, feel it again. And then when they come back from commercial, they show Pritchard shining up the Stanley Cup, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think the comeback's happening. Goalie pull again, which I thought was just silly at this point. You're down 4-0. I know, I understand, but if you're going to try to come back against Florida, the 6-on-5 just does not work. And Reinhart gets his 4th goal of the game at 14:55, and then the biggest kick in the for the Oilers is then they score, right? So Podkolzin gets one from in close to spoil the shutout. Wallman and Draisaitl with the assists at 15-18. But it's 5-1. If that goal happens and that other empty netter doesn't go in, it's 4-1. No, I don't think the Oilers come back. But you can understand why I'm thinking would have made more sense not to pull the goalie again when you're down 4-0. It's just, it's silly. During the regular season, fine, but final game of the Stanley Cup. Then Evander Kane gets a 10-minute penalty. I've talked about it before. I think Evander Kane isn't an asset in really big games in his career. He does tend to shoot off his mouth, and he does tend to end up in the penalty box, or in this case, getting thrown out of the rest of the game. Yeah, so then Florida just counts down the clock. The Florida fans go crazy. They win 5-1. They did the Na Na Hey Hey Goodbye song, which is great because 1982, that was the song for the Vancouver Canucks on the way to the final. Anytime that a team's fan base will start cheering that in the crowd, I get excited. So I want to say first off, kudos to Bill Zito for this team he's put together in Florida. As much as people don't want to credit Paul Maurice and Bill Zito for the amazing job they've done with the Florida Panthers, it is an amazing job. This logo here, I remember using this logo for the Florida Panthers in 2020 when they lost in the play-in round against the Islanders, and thinking to myself, and I don't know if I said that in the review for that series, at the end of that series, but I really felt like, I don't know that Florida's ever going to win anything. There just didn't seem to be that sense of urgency I was looking for. Well, Bill Zito as GM has got players that play with that sense of urgency. So the shots tonight favor the Oilers the whole way through, which doesn't tell the story. 10-9 in the first, 10-9 in the second, 9-7 in the third. Final shots, 29-25 for the Oilers. Power plays, there weren't any, so Elmo's on the board. I'm going to have 2 Elmo magnets, so if there's no power plays in a game next year, it's an Elmo game, because everybody was nice. That's what I'm going with, is the Sesame Street, everybody play nice kind of idea. The hits were even at 27 apiece. Skinner saved 20 out of 23. Was he the reason they lost? No. Did he give them the goaltending they needed to win? Also no. I think there was some blame to go around in this. Also, Bobrovsky deserves a lot of credit. 28 saves on 29 shots. And when you look at the numbers from tonight, they are just insane in favor of Florida. Draisaitl, no shots. McDavid, 2 shots. Those were before the third period, because I checked the stats between the second and third. I knew he had 2 shots going to the third. He didn't get a shot on net in the third period. Perry, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard, all of them -4 in this game. They ate that line alive. McDavid played 22 minutes and 30 seconds. Draisaitl played 22 minutes and 26 seconds. If the Oilers are ever going to win a cup, they have to improve their depth. And yes, they're going to have to figure out the goaltending, so we're not asking this question every playoff. Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Forsling, and Ekblad were all +4. Barkov was +3. Forsling had a ridiculous game. Reinhart had 4 goals as well. I thought Verhaeghe had a really strong game. And at times this season, his defense has been iffy. But in this playoff, Verhaeghe's been excellent. And Ekblad might be his final game as a Florida Panther. We will see who stays and who goes. And when guys sign for team-friendly deals, it's the darn taxes. But when you win back-to-back Stanley Cups, guys want to stay. They don't want to go anywhere. They want a chance to win another one. So the Conn Smythe goes to Sam Bennett. So there's been rumors that Sam Bennett could get as much as $10 million a year on the market. He is the first player to get 15 goals in a playoff season without ever having scored 30 goals in a season. So any team that's willing to pay Bennett the $10 million, if that's where it ends up, if he does leave Florida, has to be a team that's a contender, because if they're not, I don't think they're going to get value for that contract. Sam Bennett has been a beast in the playoffs dating back to when he was in Calgary. I remember when he was struggling at times during the regular season in Calgary, saying they need playoff Sam Bennett. And he's now a Conn Smythe winner. So playoff Sam Bennett's pretty good. 15 goals is crazy. I think Reinhart deserves a lot of credit too. What is it, a 5-game goal scoring streak now, or 4-game goal scoring streak in the final? And he was quiet coming into the final too. And it's something I pointed out was Reinhart and Barkov pretty quiet. Barkov didn't have a shot on net tonight, but he was a +3. He had a couple of helpers, so it's fine. And that's the difference between Florida and Edmonton. Draisaitl, no shots. He's a -4. Struggling. Barkov, no shots, but he's a +3 and he has a couple of helpers. So when Barkov's not productive, Florida still wins. When Draisaitl and McDavid get held off the score sheet, they don't. And so that is definitely a conversation that we're going to have. I'm going to do a video, obviously, on the Oilers after this loss. I'll do a video on the Florida Panthers as well, on the Stanley Cup champions. And it's going to be an interesting discussion. Florida Panthers have some cap space, and they're in pretty good shape. So that's why I've got the Bart Simpson with the sunglasses magnet there, because things are pretty good right now for Florida. This is a team that absolutely could become a dynasty next season. It could happen, like an official 3 wins in a row dynasty, which I'm sure all hockey fans everywhere would have a completely normal reaction to. I did do a video before the season started on how I believed Florida could end up repeating as Stanley Cup champions. The funny thing is, a comment then showed up on that video, and you guys can search the channel, and I'm not lying, but the Florida Panthers official account said, yeah, we think we could too, something to that effect of, yeah, we think we could repeat as well. And so there you go. Your repeat Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. It is not easy to repeat. It is not easy to go to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row and have the energy to do this. We'll find out what Tkachuk was dealing with the injury. He would not say after the game when they asked him. He said it'll come out later. You guys will find out. I think a lot of Florida players were playing through injury. I think a lot of Oilers were as well, because you do not get to this part of the playoffs. You don't go through this many games with big hits and come out without some bruises, some injuries, and just some general soreness. Just the whole body is probably pretty sore for all these players. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers, to their fans as well. And yeah, now we get to the draft, we get into free agency, and then we start talking about what next season's going to look like. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.